Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a topic today that, well, it really separates the amateurs from the masters. Dialogue. It's one of the trickiest, maybe the trickiest, but also most powerful elements in all of writing, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And, it presents this fundamental tension for every storyteller. Dialogue is, at its core, kind of a binary thing.
Binary.
How so? Well, it either succeeds immediately,
Right.
right? It makes the reader feel like they're authentically eavesdropping on real people, pulls them right into that moment, that intimacy or conflict.
Or
Or it just fails completely. It feels stiff or fake or honestly just so boring that they, disengage. They might even put the book down.
yeah, slam the book
Yeah.
shut. I've been there. So that's the tightrope walk we need to explore today.
Exactly.
Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, okay, how do you capture that rhythm, that authenticity of real speech, that feeling of real human interaction, while also making sure that every single word, every syllable is pushing the story forward, driving the narrative engine?
It's the constant battle, isn't it? Realism versus momentum.
Yeah.
It really requires a delicate balance. It's part craft, part instinct, I think.
So we're searching for that sweet spot.
We are. That place where the natural rhythms of conversation perfectly align with the need for plot momentum. And when you nail it,
What happens?
the reader forgets they're reading. They just start
Yeah.
listening. They're in the scene. Hashtag tag tag one. The essential power and purpose of dialogue.
Okay, let's start with the fundamental why. Why does dialogue pack such a punch? Why does it have this immense, almost immediate power in a story? Our sources point out it's like the fastest way for readers to connect with characters.
It is, unequivocally. It provides this immediacy, this intimacy that, frankly, description just can't match on its own.
Why not? Description can be powerful too.
It can, but think about the effort involved for a reader processing descriptive prose. You're building a picture of their thoughts, their surroundings, how they look.
Yeah.
That takes cognitive load, right?
Okay, yeah, you're painting a picture in their head.
Exactly. But the moment a character speaks, bang, you bypass all that static description. You're instantly present. You're in the room with them. You hear their voice. You absorb their emotional state. Maybe you start judging them immediately based on just a few words.
And that speed, that's critical because it dictates the pace of the story.
Absolutely. When the dialogue sings, when it has that natural, compelling, but still efficient rhythm, the whole story just accelerates.
Pacing picks up.
Yeah, the scene feels alive, electric. The reader is leaning in, fully engaged.
And the opposite is also true. When it's flat,
Yeah.
you feel it instantly. It drags.
Oh, absolutely. Readers notice that lag right away. It's like the difference between a high-performance engine and one that's, sputtering along.
Okay, but here's where it gets interesting and maybe a bit counterintuitive. Our sources say that this singing quality, this realism, it's achieved by creating the illusion of reality, not by just transcribing it.
That's the crucial distinction, and it trips up a lot of new writers.
It seems contradictory, though. If I want my characters to sound real, shouldn't I just write down what real people say? Like go record a conversation.
You could, but if you did that, I guarantee you would bore your reader to tears within 3 pages.
Really? That bad?
Oh, yeah. Real conversation is incredibly messy. Think about it. It's cluttered with filler words, ems, likes,
Right. And repetition.
repetition, people starting sentences and then just trailing off.
Yeah.
Tangents that lead absolutely nowhere, constant interruptions, sometimes confusing ones.
Okay, I see your point. Putting that directly on the page.
It would be exhausting. The reader has to sift through all this noise just to find the signal, the actual meaning. It's work.
So the real craft, then, it's more like surgery. Or maybe editing?
Exactly. It's a surgical process. We create the illusion of reality by trimming away all that conversational clutter. We're editors of reality.
Maybe only the essential parts.
The parts that deliver character or emotion or plot information. But, and this is key, we make sure the rhythm that remains suggests natural, authentic speech. It has to feel real.
So we refine it, polish it, condense it.
Precisely. You might take a rambling 5-minute real-life chat and turn it into a sharp 5-line exchange on the page.
But that 5-line exchange holds the emotional truth of the original 5 minutes.
That's the goal, making it digestible, dramatically effective, and yet it feels real, even though it's not a literal transcript at all. Hashtag 2. Crafting dialogue that sounds authentic.
Okay, so if we're aiming for this illusion, this crafted reality, what are the building blocks? How do we actually create authenticity on the page? Our sources highlight 3 core things: rhythm, voice, and intent. Let's dig into rhythm and voice first.
Right. Rhythm is, well, it's the music of the dialogue. The pacing, the structure. Are the sentences long, short, fragmented?
How quickly do characters respond? Are there pauses?
Exactly. It's capturing those natural speech patterns, the hesitations, maybe contradictions, the shifts in emotion as the conversation flows. It's about making it sound like people actually talking, not robots reading lines.
And voice, then, is about the specific sound of each individual character.
Yes. And this ties back to trimming the clutter but keeping the truth. You want the reader to feel the impact of a pause or the punch of a short sentence without drowning the dialogue in, endless ums and likes.
It's knowing what feels true for that specific person in that specific moment.
And this is where dialogue becomes such an amazing tool for revealing character. Honestly, often much more efficiently than pages of description.
How so?
Because a character's entire background, their education, their personality, their social class, even their current emotional state, it's all laid bare in how they speak. Their word choice, their sentence structure, their rhythm.
Okay, let's make that concrete. Give me an example.
Yeah.
How can specific choices create that unique voice?
All right. Imagine one character who uses a lot of current slang. Maybe short, punchy sentences.
Okay, what does that tell us?
It might suggest youth, or maybe a specific subculture they belong to. Perhaps even a little insecurity trying to fit in. It paints a picture instantly.
Now contrast that. Another character.
Contrast that with someone who speaks very formally. Long, grammatically perfect sentences. Maybe slightly archaic word choices, even in casual settings.
What does that suggest?
Could be several things. Maybe a high-level professional background. Or they could be emotionally guarded, using formality as a shield.
Or maybe English isn't their first language and they learned it very academically.
Precisely. That formality, that precision, immediately creates a distinct impression. It sets them apart.
What about someone who barely speaks? Monosyllables? Clipped sentences?
That reveals something too, doesn't it? Impatience, maybe. Emotional shutdown. Or perhaps they're just naturally taciturn. Someone whose power lies in silence rather than words.
Which is totally different from someone who talks in these long, winding, complex sentences.
Right. Using lots of clauses, maybe getting lost in their own thoughts.
What might that signal? Nervousness?
Could be nervousness. Or a desperate need to control the conversation, to manage the information flow. Or maybe they're just, naturally reflective or philosophical, and their thoughts require that kind of complex language.
The key thing, then, is that dialogue isn't just about passing information back and forth.
Never. It is a profound, active revelation of who is speaking, who they think they're talking to, and what they're trying to accomplish in that moment, even subconsciously.
But we have to be careful, right? Not to fall into stereotypes.
Oh, absolutely critical. We're capturing the essence of speech patterns, not just dropping in cliches. Authenticity comes from consistency. Does the character sound like themselves, whether they're happy, angry, scared, or lying?
Yeah, that consistency feels important, and the danger of just making them a caricature.
Yeah.
Like the slang guy is only slang.
Exactly. The nuance is everything. You're building a specific, complex person, not a generic type. And when you really nail the voice,
What's the test?
the reader should be able to tell who's speaking, even if you took out all the dialogue tags, the he said, she said.
Just based on the words and the rhythm alone.
That's the gold standard. That's successful character differentiation through dialogue. Okay, so we've talked about making it sound real. Now we have to cross to the other side of that tightrope, the mandatory function of dialogue.
Right. It can't just sit there sounding authentic but doing nothing for the story.
Exactly. If it doesn't serve the narrative, it becomes dead weight. Doesn't matter how beautifully crafted or realistic it sounds, it has to work.
And it has to have a job to do.
A critical job. Our sources boil it down to this triple mandate: every single line of dialogue.
Every line.
Ideally, yes, or at least every significant exchange. It must fulfill at least one of three critical narrative functions.
Okay, what are they?
1, reveal character. 2, build tension. 3, move the plot forward.
Reveal character, build tension, move the plot.
If a line of dialogue isn't doing at least one of those things, it needs immediate surgery.
Yeah.
Cut it, condense it, revise it until it performs its duty.
This is basically the death knell for simple chatter on the page, isn't it?
Pretty much. In real life, yeah. We talk about the weather, traffic, what we had for breakfast. Endless mundane stuff.
But putting that directly into your story.
It will stall a scene dead in its tracks. Unless...
Unless that mundane chatter has a hidden purpose.
Exactly. Unless it carries narrative weight beneath the surface. Let's take that classic, potentially boring example, talking about the weather.
Okay. Character A says, it's raining outside. Character B says, yes, it is. I hate the rain.
On the surface, dead prose fulfills none of the three mandates, just stating facts.
Right. So how do we make that line, it's raining, suddenly active? How do we apply the mandate?
We give it a secondary function, a hidden layer. Maybe the weather is a metaphor for how they're feeling.
So the character saying it's raining is actually expressing, I feel gloomy, or things look bleak.
Precisely. Now that line is revealing character their internal emotional state. Mandate 1 fulfilled.
Okay, what else? How else could it's raining work?
Well, maybe that seemingly innocent comment sparks an argument. Like, it's raining, yes, and you left the damn window open again. The floor's soaked.
Ah, okay. Now it's creating conflict.
Right. Suddenly, the dialogue is building tension, escalating something that was probably already simmering under the surface. Mandate 2 fulfilled.
And the third mandate, moving the plot.
This is often the most crucial use, especially for subtext. Maybe they use the weather talk to avoid the real issue.
Like there's a huge elephant in the room, a secret, a betrayal, a difficult decision.
Exactly, and they keep talking about the rain, the forecast, anything but the thing that truly matters. Looks like it'll rain all week. Oh, really? That's a shame. All while avoiding eye contact.
So the act of talking about the weather is moving the plot by delaying the inevitable confrontation.
Precisely. The dialogue's function is now building tension through avoidance. It's revealing their character, their conflict avoidant, perhaps. And by delaying the climax, it's actually moving the plot towards that eventual explosion. It's doing narrative work.
So the goal isn't just what's said, but the underlying why. Why are they saying this right now in this way?
That's the core of it. Ensure every exchange is active, driving the scene forward, even if the characters themselves are trying desperately to stand still or hide the truth. The story moves because of the function of the words, not just the words themselves. And that brings us right back to that tightrope metaphor. It really is the perfect definition of finding that sweet spot.
Because if you lean too far one way,
if it's too realistic, too much like that raw transcript we talked about, it gets cluttered, it gets boring, it suffocates the pace.
And if you lean too far the other way, too polished,
then it feels fake, completely unnatural, like characters reading from a script or giving a speech, highly staged.
So the ideal, what every writer is shooting for, is dialogue that just flows. It feels natural when you read it, effortless almost.
Effortless to the reader, yes. But underneath that smooth surface, it's secretly doing significant narrative work, often hitting multiple mandates, revealing character and building tension and moving plot all at once.
And the amazing thing is, when it works, the reader doesn't consciously break it down like we are now.
Not at all. They just feel the momentum. They're hooked. They trust the voices they're hearing in their head. They keep turning the pages because the conversation feels both immediate and incredibly meaningful.
It might be helpful to look at some examples.
Yeah.
Case studies in rhythm, maybe. Our sources mention a couple of writers with very different styles, like Aaron Sorkin.
Ah, Sorkin. Famous for that rapid-fire, witty, often very intellectual dialogue. Think The West Wing or The Social Network.
It's definitely stylized. Some people say it's exaggerated, right? Like, real people don't talk that fast or that cleverly all the time.
That's a common critique. His characters can seem almost superhumanly articulate, firing back perfect arguments or brilliant quips instantly.
So why does it work if it's not strictly realistic?
Because it's utterly believable within the context he creates. Those high-stakes environments, the White House, a newsroom, a tech startup, they demand a kind of heightened reality.
The pressure cooker environment justifies the rapid-fire talk.
Exactly. The speed itself becomes part of the momentum. It creates urgency, energy. The style serves the story's needs for pace and intelligence.
Okay, now let's pivot completely. What about someone like Sally Rooney? Think normal people or conversations with friends.
A total contrast. Her dialogue is often very spare, sometimes awkward even, full of hesitations, pauses, small misunderstandings.
Minimalist, almost.
Very minimalist. But that sparseness, that awkwardness, is precisely what makes it feel so deeply, sometimes painfully, intimate.
It captures something real about communication, doesn't it? Especially maybe for younger people trying to articulate complex, uncertain feelings.
I think so. It mirrors the sort of fragmented nature of how we communicate now, maybe even online, lots of uncertainty, reading between the lines. It sounds real enough because we recognize that struggle, that hesitation. The meaning is often in the gaps, the silences.
So Sorkin uses speed and wit for momentum, while Rooney uses sparseness and subtext.
Two completely different rhythms, but the core principle holds. Make it sound real enough to hook the reader emotionally, but never, ever lose that narrative drive. The dialogue always serves the story, just in very different ways.
It really highlights how finding your own voice, your own dialogue rhythm as a writer is such a challenge. You're aiming for something unique to your story, balancing pace and authenticity without just copying the masters.
It's a constant process of listening, experimenting, and refining. Hashtag tag tagged AVO, practical techniques for writers. The how-to.
Okay, let's get practical. We understand the principles, the balance, but how do we actually do this? How can writers test their own dialogue to make sure it's hitting that sweet spot?
There are a couple of really indispensable tests mentioned in our sources. The first one is incredibly simple, but surprisingly powerful, and often skipped.
Which is?
The read aloud test. You have to actually say the words out loud.
Not just reading silently.
Nope. Physically articulate them, speak them, or at least mouth them clearly, because your ear catches things. Your eye glides over when you're just reading silently on the screen.
What kind of things?
Clunkiness, stiffness. If you stumble over a line, if it feels unnatural in your mouth, if a sentence is too long and winding or too formal and academic for the character, it needs fixing. Immediately.
That makes total sense. The dialogue has to perform. Okay, what's the second test? You said it was more brutal.
It is, but it's incredibly revealing about the underlying strength of your dialogue. It's the clarity and movement test.
Clarity and movement, how does that work?
You strip everything else away, just the raw dialogue. No dialogue tags, he said, she asked. No surrounding description, no action beats like he slammed his fist on the table. Just character A's line, then character B's line, back and forth.
Okay, so you're left with just the words spoken.
Exactly, and then you read only that. Can you still follow what's happening? Can you track the emotional trajectory of the scene? Can you feel the tension rising or falling? Can you understand the plot progression just from the words exchanged?
And if you can.
If you can still follow the core of the scene, the who, what, why, the emotional journey, then your dialogue has clarity and movement. It's doing its job independently.
But if it falls apart, if it becomes confusing, or you can't tell who's angry or what they're even talking about without the stage directions,
then your dialogue is weak. It's relying too heavily on those crutches, the tags, the descriptions, the actions. It needs to be stronger on its own.
let's try a quick example. Character A, is it done? Character B, yes, but it wasn't easy. Stripped down like that.
You still get it, right?
Right.
You understand a significant event has occurred. They're discussing the aftermath. There was difficulty involved. The core movement is clear just from those few words.
Yeah, the dialogue carries the weight.
Precisely. And this whole idea leads us directly to probably the most powerful tool for making dialogue feel authentic and move the story forward simultaneously.
Which is?
Subtext.
Subtext. What we don't say.
Exactly. It's the magic ingredient because it reflects real life so perfectly.
Yeah.
Think about it. How often do we say exactly what we mean, especially in difficult situations?
Rarely. We hedge, we hint, we talk around things.
Right. And that tension, the gap between what's spoken on the surface and what's truly meant or felt underneath, that's where the real drama lies in conversation.
It's the conflict between the internal truth, what a character feels, wants, fears, and their external performance, the words they actually choose to say, which might be censored or tactical or defensive.
And that gap, that emotional dissonance, that's where dialogue truly propels the story. Let's go back to that classic example you brought up earlier, the fight about the dishes.
Okay, two characters arguing fiercely about someone leaving dirty dishes in the sink.
On the surface, the text is about hygiene, chores, maybe laziness.
But the subtext, the real argument, is almost never about the dishes themselves.
Never. It's deeper, more painful. Maybe character A feels the dishes are a symbol of disrespect, that character B doesn't care enough about their shared home, their shared life, so the fight is actually about respect.
What else could it be?
Or maybe character A sees the mess as a sign that character B is getting too comfortable, too careless, which triggers a deeper feel that character B doesn't value the relationship enough to maintain it, that they might leave. So the fight is really about love and fear of abandonment.
Wow. Okay. Or it could be the other way around. Maybe character B knows the dishes annoy character A, and leaving them there is a passive-aggressive way to express anger, about something totally different. Like they had a fight about money last week, and this is the retaliation.
Absolutely. The dishes become a safe proxy war for a bigger unresolved conflict. The dialogue is about dishes, but the energy, the heat, comes from somewhere else entirely.
So the difference between the text dishes and the subtext, respect, fear, anger, is where the narrative power lies.
Exactly. And truly good dialogue is crafted so the reader picks up on that subtext, often instantly. They understand what's really being said, even if the characters themselves are hiding it or can't articulate it.
Okay, let's shift slightly to nuts and bolts, the mechanics. Specifically, dialogue tags those little he said, she whispered things. There's some famous advice here.
There is, and it bears repeating because it's so fundamental. The golden rule is simple. Said is your friend.
Just said. Seems boring.
It might seem boring to the writer staring at the page, but it's virtuous precisely because it's boring. It's effectively invisible to the reader.
Invisible.
Yeah. Their brain is so used to seeing said that it just processes it without conscious thought. It disappears into the background, letting the character's actual words take center stage. No interruption.
But don't you worry about repetition. Using said over and over. Doesn't it look, I don't know, flat on the page?
That's a common writer worry, focused on the visual look.
Yeah.
But it's rarely a problem for the reader's experience. The moment you start swapping said for fancier, more descriptive tags.
Like what are the fancy tags we should avoid?
Oh, the usual suspects, he exclaimed. She retorted, they pontificated, he opined, she ejaculated, which you sometimes see in older prose and is just awkward now.
Yeah, definitely avoid that one. What about things like, he whispered fiercely?
See, that's trying too hard. These tags draw attention to themselves. They shout, look at me, the writer, being descriptive. They interrupt the flow.
And they try to do the work that dialogue itself should be doing.
Exactly. If the dialogue is genuinely fierce, the reader will feel it from the words, the context, the rhythm. You don't need to tack on fiercely. Let the words work.
So if we're avoiding fancy tags, and said feels repetitive, how do we break up the dialogue and add that emotional nuance or physical grounding?
Action beats, that's the answer.
Okay, define action beats.
They are small bits of action, gesture, movement, or internal reaction woven around or between lines of dialogue. Like, he sighed. She took a slow sip of her coffee. He tapped his fingers on the table. She looked away out the window. His jaw tightened. Small physical details.
And what do these do?
Several crucial things. First, they break up blocks of text, solving that visual flatness problem you mentioned. Second, they ground the scene in the physical world, reminding the reader these are embodied characters, not just talking heads.
And third, the most important,
they convey emotion and subtext far more effectively than almost any dialogue tag could.
more effectively than he said angrily.
Way more effective. Imagine a character says very calmly, I understand completely. Okay. But the action beat is, he said, slamming his coffee mug down so hard the table rattled. What does that tell you?
Tells me he does not understand completely, he's furious, or deeply frustrated. The action totally contradicts the calm words.
Bingo. That physical action reveals the subtext, the true emotional state, instantly and powerfully. Way better than sticking an adverb on said.
So the action beat bridges the lines, keeps it dynamic, shows emotion, and helps with the visual pacing.
Exactly. Use the action beat for the description and emotional color, and let said remain invisible. Or often, you can even omit the tag entirely if the action beat makes it clear who's speaking next. #tag7. Recognizing and avoiding common pitfalls.
So as writers strive for this balance, authentic sound, narrative function, using tags and beats effectively, there are still traps they can fall into. Common pitfall.
Oh, yes. Even experienced writers can stumble here. One of the biggest, most glaring ones is the info dump conversation.
The dreaded info dump. We touched on this, but it's worth nailing down.
It's that classic trap where characters start telling each other things they both obviously already know, purely for the benefit of the reader who needs the backstory or exposition.
It feels completely unnatural.
Totally, because real people don't talk like that. Let's make up a truly awful example. Two brothers who grew up together meet. Brother A says,
Go on, let's hear the horror.
Brother A, hey Bob, good to see you. Remember how when we were kids living in that small blue house on Elm Street, our dad, George, who worked at the factory, used to tell us those bedtime stories about the magical widgets.
Oh, cringe. Bob obviously knows all of that.
Exactly. They'd never recap their shared childhood like that. They'd use shorthand. Remember Dad's widget stories?
Yeah.
That's it. The reader has to piece things together.
So that kind of dialogue, the info dump kind, it just smells fake a mile away, as the source says.
It does. The author's hand is too visible, manipulating the characters like puppets to deliver exposition. It needs to be woven in much more subtly through action, internal thought, maybe brief, natural-sounding references, not a lecture disguised as chat.
Okay, so avoid the info dump. What other major pitfalls?
The extremes we talked about earlier, swinging too far towards polish or too far towards realism.
Remind us about too polished.
Dialogue that sounds like a prepared speech. Every sentence perfect, every thought fully formed and articulated flawlessly. Maybe overly witty or rhetorical. It's like everyone's giving a TED Talk.
It lacks the natural pauses, the ums, the fragments, the occasional grammatical flip that makes speech feel human.
Right. Everything is too perfect, which ironically makes it feel completely false. There's no messiness.
And the other extreme. Too realistic.
That's the dialogue that tries so hard to capture every single filler word, every repetition, every verbal tick, every meandering tangent of real speech.
Then it becomes unreadable.
Exactly. It gets so cluttered and messy that the reader gets lost, the pace grinds to a halt, and you lose all narrative momentum in the name of authenticity. It's a misguided attempt.
So the path is between those two cliffs. Avoid the overly slick TED Talk and avoid the unreadable raw transcript.
That's the tightrope. Consciously steer away from both extremes. Keep sculpting, cutting, refining until it hits that balance. Sounds natural, feels true, but moves the story forward with purpose. #8. Dialogue as conflict and desire.
So when we really get down to the heart of it, dialogue that works, dialogue that drives the story, it's about more than just characters talking.
Much more. It's a condensed reflection of the story's core elements. Conflict, desire, power dynamics, all distilled into voice.
Every conversation is a kind of micro story in itself.
In a way, yes. Or at least a critical beat within the larger story. Think of it as a contest, even a quiet one. It often represents that fundamental clash we discussed.
Between what a character wants to say, their internal truth, their need, their fear.
And what they actually say, the version they present to the world, which might be guarded, strategic, maybe even deceptive.
Dialogue, seen that way, is inherently dramatic. It's always active.
Absolutely. It's story condensed into voice, as one source puts it. It shows the struggle for understanding, for dominance, for love, for control over what happens next, or just to be truly seen by someone else.
Okay, so if a writer wants to get significantly better at crafting this kind of powerful dialogue, it's not just going to happen by accident. How do they actively improve?
They have to study it actively. You can't just hope it comes naturally. And the best place to start, study the masters of pure conversation. Our sources strongly suggest looking at playwrights.
Why playwrights specifically?
Because theater lives and dies on dialogue. Often there's minimal description, no internal monologue filtering thoughts for the audience. Everything, character, plot, theme, emotion, backstory, has to come through the spoken word exchanged between characters on stage.
They are the ultimate dialogue specialists.
They have to be. Studying plays forces you to see how dialogue alone can carry an entire story.
What else? Beyond reading plays.
Listen. Really listen to how people talk in the real world, not just the words they use, but how they use them.
Pay attention to the rhythm, the pacing.
Yes. And the pauses, what do they signify? The interruptions, how do they shift the power dynamic in a conversation? Listen for the moments of subtext in your own life when you or someone else says one thing but clearly means another. Become an observer of human interaction.
And consume stories known for strong dialogue, presumably.
Definitely. Watch films and TV shows celebrated for sharp writing. Read novels where the dialogue jumps off the page. But don't just consume them passively. Analyze why it works.
Ask, is it the speed, the sparseness, the subtext, the way they handle conflict through words?
Exactly. Break it down. Try to understand the techniques the writer using to create that effect. Learn from them.
And the reward, when you finally start nailing dialogue in your own work.
Oh, it's huge. It's immediate. Your characters suddenly feel alive, three-dimensional. The pacing of your story instantly picks up because there's no dead air, no wasted words.
And the reader?
The reader leans in. They're hooked by the immediacy, the intimacy. They trust the voices. They feel like they're right there. It's one of the most direct ways to pull a reader deep into your fictional world. #outro.
So wrapping up this deep dive on dialogue, the core takeaway seems crystal clear. The goal isn't really to mimic reality perfectly.
No, not transcription. It's about recreating the essence of reality. Capturing the emotional truth, the rhythm, but doing it with narrative efficiency.
And trusting the reader.
Yeah.
Trusting them to pick up on the subtext, to fill in some of the gaps.
Absolutely. Remember the mandate. Every line, every exchange should ideally serve a purpose. Reveal character, build tension, or move the plot, maybe all three.
Let silence work for you. Let subtext do some of the heavy lifting. Don't feel the need to spell everything out explicitly.
Exactly. Resist that urge.
Because dialogue isn't just filler between the descriptive bits. It's not just connecting tissue.
Far from it. It is one of the most powerful, most kinetic tools you have as a writer to keep your story moving, dynamic, and utterly engaging for the reader.
It really is the heartbeat of the story, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it. Dialogue is the heartbeat. And when that heartbeat is steady, strong, and feels true, the whole story comes alive. If you apply some of these ideas, like that clarity and movement test, listen for subtext, you'll feel the energy change on your pages.
Excellent advice. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the craft of storytelling. Remember, those conversations your characters are having, they're not just words. They are the engine of your narrative.
And maybe the clearest window into your characters' souls.